The sun was high and merciless over the empty stretch of highway, pouring blinding light onto the world until every shadow looked sharper, every breath felt heavier, and the air itself seemed stretched thin. And in the middle of that burning daylight, a young woman in a torn red dress ran like the earth behind her was collapsing. Mara's lungs screamed for air. Her legs trembled. Her heartbeat hammered louder than the distant rumble of engines. But she didn't dare stop. Not when she felt two masked men closing the distance behind her. Not when the world had narrowed to a single desperate instinct. Run or die. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know if she was running towards safety or straight into another nightmare. Her life had turned into a single fragile thread, pulled tight and threatening to snap with every stumble she made. But she kept moving. She had no choice. If you believe kindness still belongs in this world, if you believe in courage, in second chances, and in strangers who step in when the world turns dark, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. You help stories of hope reach more hearts. Mara had started her morning with nothing but hopeful plans, heading to her job at the flower shop with her notebook tucked in her bag, dreaming of one day opening her own little store. But dreams have a terrible way of colliding with danger when you least expect it. The masked men had grabbed her on the sidewalk, shoving her toward a van without saying a word, without giving her a reason she could understand. She didn't know their names. She didn't know their motives. All she knew was that their grip carried the cold purpose of men who didn't care whether she lived through the next hour. When she broke free, it wasn't strategy, it was instinct. A wild burst of adrenaline that sent her feet flying before her mind understood she had a chance. The sun shimmered off the pavement so brightly it looked unreal, like the world had tilted into someone else's nightmare. Mara heard one of the men curse behind her, his boots pounding against the asphalt. Her breaths came in ragged bursts. Her legs threatened to give out, but she pushed on because she could feel danger breathing down her neck. And then she saw them. 3 men stood beside their motorcycles on the roadside, leather vests catching the blazing sunlight, their chrome engines gleaming like steel beasts waiting to awaken. They weren't just any bikers. These were Hell's Angels, massive figures carved from muscle, tattoos, and years of surviving the roughest roads life had to offer. Mara had seen them in town before. People said they were trouble, chaos, something to be wary of, but right now, they were the only living souls between her and a nightmare behind her. The closest biker, a tall, broad man named Roar, noticed her first. His relaxed expression sharpened instantly as he took in the terror etched across her pale face, and the 2 masked men charging after her. The second biker, Griff, straightened. The third, Maddox, took one silent step forward. They didn't need an explanation. Everything they needed to know was written in the way Mara stumbled toward them, her dress torn, her breath broken, her eyes begging. Mara could barely make a sound when she reached them. Her voice cracked into a whisper that wasn't even a word, just raw fear, spilled into the open air, and that was all it took. Roar stepped forward with a calmness more terrifying than any violence. Griff and Maddox flanked him, arms folding across tattooed chests, their bodies forming a wall of iron. When the masked men slowed at the sight of them, the entire road seemed to hold its breath. One of the men tried to shout a threat, but his voice shook too much to land. The bikers didn't move right away. They simply stared, unblinking, measuring the danger like predators who had just found something smaller pretending to roar. The tension crackled like electricity. And then Roar took one more step, not aggressive, not loud, but with a steady certainty that made the masked men flinch. His presence alone drained the courage out of them. The Hell's Angels didn't carry guns. They didn't need to. Their strength, their discipline, their code, that was enough. Protect the ones who can't protect themselves. That was the rule they lived by. And in that moment, Mara understood she wasn't alone anymore. When the masked men finally backed away, fear replacing whatever violent purpose they carried minutes earlier, the bikers didn't chase them. They just stood there, silent and unmovable, until the men ran far enough to disappear into the blazing horizon. Only then did Roar turn toward Mara, and the hardened lines of his face softened. Griff took off his leather jacket and draped it around her shaking shoulders. Maddox gently guided her to sit on the curb, so her legs wouldn't give out. Mara tried to speak, but the words broke apart in her throat. She didn't need to explain. They already knew. They stayed beside her like a protective circle, shielding her from the world while she tried to remember how to breathe. When the police arrived, called quietly by Griff while Mara clung to calm, the bikers stayed close, making sure she never felt exposed, never felt small again. The officers handled her gently. The bikers stood guard like living statues. By the time the masked men were found and arrested, Mara's trembling had eased. She wasn't whole yet, but she wasn't broken anymore either. Roar eventually asked her if she wanted a ride home. She nodded, too tired to speak. He offered her a helmet, and when she climbed onto his motorcycle, she felt something she hadn't felt since the nightmare began. Safe. As they rode through the sunlit streets, the wind lifted her hair, the warmth touched her skin, and for the first time in hours, she felt like someone had stitched her back into the world. She realized something life-changing. Heroes don't always look the way you expect. Sometimes they wear leather. Sometimes they carry the weight of the world in their tattoos. Sometimes they don't say much, but they stand exactly where darkness stops. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that kindness and courage still exist in unexpected places, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what part of this story moved you the most?